Picture a night so cold it could steal the breath from your lungs, a Mississippi blizzard tearing through the darkness like a vengeful ghost. Snow doesn't just fall, it stabs, blanketing a forgotten corner of the world where hope feels like a distant rumor. In a tiny weathered shack at the edge of this nowhere town, a single light flickers, barely holding back the shadows. Inside sits Clara, a 68-year-old black widow whose life has been carved by loss and stitched together with grit. Once a nurse who mended souls in the roughest corners of Jackson, now she's alone, haunted by debts, and a silence so heavy it could crush bones. The world outside has all but forgotten her neighbors pass by, whispers trailing, but no one knocks. Betrayed by scams, scarred by a system that preys on the vulnerable, she's learned to guard her heart. But tonight, as the storm screams louder, something else cuts through a low, rumbling growl, not of wind, but of engines. Strangers are coming, their headlights slicing the snow like knives. Who are they? Why her door? In a single moment, Clara's about to face a choice that could unravel her fears or invite a danger she can't outrun. Stick with me, because what happens next will grip your soul and show you the wildfire one spark of kindness can ignite. Clara's 68, now a retired community nurse with hands that once mended the broken in the gritty inner-city clinics of Jackson. For decades, she was the quiet hero, stitching wounds, easing fevers, and fighting for folks in neighborhoods where doctors rarely showed up. Black communities ravaged by underfunded hospitals, she was there battling systemic neglect, one patient at a time. But life has a way of turning the healer into the one who needs healing. 14 years ago, her husband Jamal, a Gulf War veteran, slipped away from her, lost to the invisible scars of PTSD that no amount of love could fully erase. No children to fill the void, just echoes in an empty home. Now she's drowning in medical debts that predatory lenders love to prey on in places like this. Interest rates that climb like vines, choking out hope, targeting black families who've already given everything. Picture her evenings, Clara huddled by that lantern, sifting through stacks of bills that mock her every sacrifice. The phone rings with collection calls, each one a reminder of how the world forgets those who've served it. Neighbors. They're out there in this mostly white stretch of countryside, driving past without a wave, whispering about that poor widow, but never stopping by. Racial microaggressions sting like hidden thorns, the subtle exclusions, the assumptions that she's handling it fine because she's strong, black, and supposed to be unbreakable. But inside, the loneliness gnaws deeper than the cold, turning days into a grind of survival. She's been betrayed before, scammed by fake charities promising aid after Jamal's passing, only to vanish with her last savings. It's enough to make anyone bitter to lock the doors of the heart forever. Yet here's where Clara's story twists, in a way that might hit close to home for you. Think about those black widows and post-Hurricane Ida Louisiana women like Clara, who rebuilt lives amid ruins, only to face institutional racism that denied them fair loans and health care. The root causes deep-seated disparities, redlining that starved communities of resources, economic policies that favor the privileged, leaving folks spiraling into depression or losing ancestral homes passed down through generations. The consequences are brutal cycles of poverty that trap families' mental health crises that go untreated, echoing the betrayals many of us know too well. But Clara, she fights back in small ways. She tends a modest herb garden out back, growing remedies from seeds Jamal once planted, basil for calm, mint for memory. It's her ritual of self-healing, a quiet rebellion against the void. Contrast that with the pitfalls so many fall into, succumbing to bitterness after one too many deceptions, like joining fake support groups that promise community but deliver only more isolation. I've seen it, friends hardened by scams withdrawing further, letting resentment block any light. That only deepens the hole, hinders recovery, turns potential allies into ghosts. Clara could have gone that way, but she didn't. Her endurance. It blooms from reclaiming those small rituals of self-care. In the face of adversity, holding on to your inner light can illuminate paths others overlook. If you've been marginalized, betrayed, or left fighting alone, remember this. Your strength isn't in never breaking, it's in piecing yourself back together, one intentional act at a time. It empowers you to rise to claim the victories waiting just beyond the storm. But as the blizzard rages on, something shifts in the night. The wind carries a new sound, not thunder, but a low, guttural growl piercing the chaos. Engines straining against the snow growing closer. Clara freezes, her heart pounding. What could be out there in this forsaken storm? Stranger's danger, or something that will rewrite everything she thought she knew about trust and survival. Hold on, because what happens next at her door will challenge everything and show you just how one moment of courage can shatter the chains of fear. The fire in Clara's shack crackles like it's whispering secrets, casting flickering shadows across the faces of 18 shadow wolves, bikers sprawled across her creaky living room. The storm outside howls, but in here the air is thick with something else. Wet leather gasoline fumes and the faint aroma of the thin vegetable stew Clara's ladling from a chipped pot. These men who rolled in like a threat now sit hunched, helmets off, revealing eyes that carry more than the cold. They're veterans, ex-convicts, outcasts, men carved from the same hard edges as the black communities Clara served as a nurse, where systemic neglect left wounds deeper than any blade. She moves among them, offering bowls of steaming broth and crusty bread, her hands steady despite the tremor of doubt still lingering. This isn't just a meal. It's a bridge, fragile and untested, spanning the chasm between strangers. As the firelight dances, something shifts. The silence breaks not with threats, but with voices low and raw, like stones dragged up from a riverbed. One biker, his knuckles scarred, speaks of a brother lost to a war that never really ended, his voice cracking like the logs in the hearth. Another, with tattoos snaking up his neck, admits to nights haunted by the echo of prison bars slammed shut for crimes tied to a system that funnels black and brown men into cages. Their stories mirror Clara's own, losing Jamal to PTSD's silent war, fighting a world that forgets you unless you're bleeding. She listens, her heart recognizing the weight of their pain, the kind that stitched her own life together for 14 years. This is no ordinary night. It's a communion where shared suffering starts to weave threads of something deeper. Let's unpack this moment, because it's one we've all felt in some way, those rare times when walls come down and you see the soul behind the scars. Their trauma has roots, war's lingering ghosts, like the PTSD that took Jamal, or racial inequities that push men into cycles of crime and punishment. Think of the stats, how Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but nearly 40% of those incarcerated, often for minor offenses, white folks skate on. The consequences: emotional armor that isolates but also forges fierce loyalty, like the brotherhood binding these bikers. Compare it to the black-led support circles after Breonna Taylor's killing, where strangers shared grief in church basements, turning pain into power. Contrast that with the solitude of unshared sorrow, those who bottle it up, like the black veteran I know who hid his struggles post-Iraq only to spiral into addiction because he wouldn't speak. The mistake here is pride, thinking you're stronger alone. Clara could have stayed silent, kept serving soup without a word, but she doesn't. She shares a piece of her own story. Jamal's laughter, his quiet nights staring at nothing, and the room stills, their eyes locking onto hers, seeing her not as a stranger, but a mirror. Then the twist hits like a thunderclap. A young biker, barely in his 20s, slumps forward, a ragged cough tearing through his chest. It's not just a cold, it's fevered, desperate, his breath whistling like a broken engine. Panic ripples through the room. Boots scrape voices, clash some bark orders, others mutter fear. Clara's heart lurches. She's seen this before in her nursing days, the way pneumonia can claim a body left too long in the cold. But where others freeze, she moves. Her small frame cuts through the chaos, voice sharp with command. Give him space. The bikers part like a sea, stunned by the authority in this woman they'd underestimated. Her hands, lined with years of saving lives, press against his burning forehead, count the frantic pulse at his wrist. She tears a rag from an old curtain, soaks it in cold water, and lays it across his skin. Her movement steady, as if she's back in the clinic, not a shack fighting a storm. The room holds its breath watching a widow become a warrior. This is the power of vulnerability. It's not weakness, but a weapon. Think of those support circles post-Ferguson, where black men and women bared their fears, knitting communities stronger than any protest could. Compare that to the era of hiding pain, like that activist who shut out allies after betrayal, only to find his voice silenced by loneliness. Clara's strength here isn't just skill, it's her refusal to let fear stop her hands from healing. If you've been hurt, scammed, or left to fight alone, here this shared suffering unites us across divides. Embracing others' stories can turn your pain into collective power, a fire that warms instead of burns. It's a lesson for anyone clawing through injustice, a spark to keep you fighting. But as the young biker's breathing steadies, the fire dims and the night stretches on. Something lingers in the air, unspoken debts, glances that hold secrets not yet told. Clara feels it a prickle at the back of her neck, as if the storm outside is just a prelude to something bigger. Dawn is coming, and with it a reckoning that will shake her world to its core. Stay with me, because what rolls in with the morning light will rewrite everything you thought you knew about trust and redemption. Dawn breaks over the Mississippi hamlet like a fragile promise. The blizzard's fury, now a quiet blanket of snow, glittering under a pale sun. Inside Clara's shack, the air smells of stale coffee and cooling embers, the fire from last night reduced to a soft glow. She moves through her morning ritual, cracking the last of her eggs into a skillet, slicing what's left of her bread, her hands steady but her heart uneasy. The 18 Shadow Wolves bikers stir their heavy boots, scuffing the floor, voices low with gratitude as they accept her modest breakfast. Gone is the sharp edge of strangers. They move with a quiet respect, like guests who know they've been given more than they deserve. Clara almost lets herself believe it's over a strange night of shared stories. A sick man saved a fleeting bond. Soon they'll ride off, leaving her to her silence and her debts. But then the ground trembles. It starts as a faint hum, like the earth itself is waking up angry. Plates rattle on her counter. The old lantern sways, casting wild shadows. Clara freezes her spatula, hovering mid-air. The sound swells a deep, relentless thunder, not from the sky but from beyond the hills. Engines, hundreds of them. Her pulse spikes as she rushes to the window, snow-dusted fields now a stage for something unimaginable. Over the rise, a river of chrome and steel pours in 600 Shadow Wolves, their bikes gleaming like blades, leather jackets catching the morning light. The roar shakes her bones, drowns her thoughts, turns her quiet corner of the world into a coliseum of noise. Neighbors' curtains twitch, faces pale with fear, doors slamming shut as if locking out an invasion. Children are yanked from windows, whispers hissing troubles come to town. Clara's knees buckle. Has her kindness betrayed her? Did she open her door to doom? Clara's dread isn't just about the bikes, it's rooted in a lifetime of betrayals. As a black woman, she's navigated a world quick to judge and slow to help, from racial profiling in her nursing days to scams that preyed on her grief after Jamal's death. Those predatory lenders, those fake charities, they taught her that vulnerability can invite vultures. Now facing an army of riders, her fear mirrors the systemic mistrust black communities carry, like the aftermath of broken promises post-civil rights era, where fair housing and equal opportunity were dangled, then snatched away. The consequence: a community braced for the worst like Clara, now expecting her mercy to backfire. Say no to these strangers, and she protects herself but stays trapped in isolation. Say yes, and she risks everything: her home, her safety, her fragile peace. Think of the Selma marches, where black marchers faced batons and dogs but found allies in unexpected places, turning fear into unity. Contrast that with modern pitfalls, families during Hurricane Katrina who refused aid from outsiders only to regret it when supplies ran dry. The mistake here is assuming the worst based on appearances, a trap Clara's teetering on. I think of a black family in Mobile aided by a biker crew during a flood, their leather jackets hiding hearts that rebuilt homes. Stereotypes almost cost them that help. Clara's standing at that same edge, her hand gripping the doorframe, watching the 18 bikers from last night rise as one. They don't run. They step outside, forming a line across her porch shoulders, squared faces hard but loyal like soldiers guarding a fortress. It's defiance protection, something she can't name yet. The 600 bikes circle tighter engines, snarling snow spraying under tires. Her heart screams, this is the end. Then the twist crashes in. The leader of the 600 raises a gloved hand, and the thunder stops. 600 engines cut off in unison, leaving a silence so heavy it feels like the world's holding its breath. He steps forward, his presence commanding, but his eyes soft, almost reverent. "Clara," he says, voice carrying like a vow years ago, "you saved one of ours. A man lost in a storm like this, half dead at your door. You nursed him, fed him, asked nothing in return." Her mind races a memory flickering, a shivering figure years back, fevered and frail, Jamal urging her to help. She'd forgotten, but they hadn't. "Last night," he continues, "you saved him again." The sick biker from the firelight now standing among the 18 nods, eyes glistening. The 600 bow their heads, a sea of leather and steel bending to her. It's not invasion, it's reverence. This is the truth of adversity's guise. What looks like doom can be deliverance. If you've been betrayed, judged, or left fighting alone, hold on to this enduring doubt can unveil blessings you never saw coming. It's fuel for your own battles, a reminder to push through fear of the unknown. But as Clara stands, frozen tears welling, the leader's gaze sharpens, hinting at something more. The bikes haven't moved. The air hums with purpose. Dawn hasn't ended this story. It's lit the fuse for something bigger. Stick with me, because what these riders do next will rebuild more than a house. It'll resurrect a life. The sun climbs higher, bathing the Mississippi hamlet in a golden glow that makes the snow-dusted fields shimmer like a promise kept. Clara's once crumbling shack stands transformed, its sagging roof. Now sturdy walls gleaming with fresh white paint, broken fences mended straight as a soldier's spine. Smoke curls from the chimney, not as a cry of survival, but as a banner of life reborn. Hours ago, 600 shadow wolves descended like a storm of steel, and Clara, heart pounding with dread, thought her kindness had invited ruin. But now the truth unfolds like a miracle. These men, led by the biker she unknowingly saved years ago, have paid back her mercy tenfold. They've cleared her crushing debts, those predatory loans that haunted her nights, stamping paid in full across every bill. They've hauled in sacks of flour, sugar, and beans, stocked her pantry, and even led 2 sturdy horses to her stable, their hooves stamping new life into the frozen earth. Men who once gripped throttles now wield hammers, repairing her barn, replacing shattered windows, stacking firewood in neat rows. It's not just a house they're fixing, it's a future. Clara stands on her porch, the worn scarf Jamal gave her slipping from her shoulders as if she no longer needs its weight to anchor her. The 18 bikers from last night, now joined by the 600, work with a quiet reverence, their tattooed hands moving with purpose, not chaos. Neighbors once hidden behind locked doors now spill onto the street, jaws dropped, eyes wide at the sight of an army rebuilding a widow's world. Children press noses to frosted windows, no longer afraid but awestruck, watching what they thought was menace become miracle. Clara's tears blur the scene, but through them she sees it clear. Her shack, once a tomb of loneliness, now pulses with life. The cracked paint is gone, the broken beams restored, the home Jamal loved, reborn as a sanctuary. This isn't charity, it's a covenant written in sweat and steel, a vow that her small act of kindness, opening her door to strangers in a storm, has rippled out to shake the ground beneath her. Let's dig into what this means, because it's a truth that hits deep, especially if you've ever felt discarded or betrayed. This moment has roots in a single deed, Clara's choice to help a stranger years ago, a choice born from Jamal's wisdom and her own unyielding heart. The cause: one spark of compassion given without expectation, compounding across time like interest in a bank of human connection. The consequence: a life lifted from the brink, not just Clara's, but her community's, as neighbors see past their prejudices. Think of Black-owned mutual aid funds during COVID, where a single donation sparked networks of support, feeding families, saving homes. Contrast that with the regret of those who hoard kindness, like the shop owner I heard of, who turned away storm victims, only to face his own ruin later alone. The mistake is thinking your actions don't matter, that one meal, one moment can't change the world. Clara proves it can. She's living proof that vulnerability invites reciprocity, that a single door opened can summon an army. And here's the twist that'll catch your breath. As the work finishes, the leader steps forward, his eyes steady, holding something small, a black bandana, edges frayed, patched with the Shadow Wolf's crest. He places it gently on her porch railing. No words, just a nod that carries the weight of 1,000 promises. The 600 riders turn to their bikes, engines rumbling to life, not with menace but with reverence, a hymn of chrome and fire. They form a procession, moving slow, deliberate, each man raising a gloved fist or 2 fingers in salute as they pass her porch. It's not chaos, it's choreography, a tribute to a woman who gave them shelter and unknowingly salvation. Clara stands tall, no longer the frail widow, but a matriarch framed against her reborn home. Neighbors watch not with pity now, but awe, seeing her as the heart of something bigger than their small town. The engines fade into the horizon, leaving a silence that's not empty. It's alive with memory, promise, and the truth that Clara's not forgotten anymore. She's seen. She's remembered. She's alive. This is the power of empathy. It defies despair, turns frailty into fortitude. If you've been scammed, judged, or left to fight alone, let this sink in. Your quiet defiance, your smallest act can rally legions. Your fight for justice, for survival, isn't solo. Someone somewhere is carrying your kindness, ready to return it when you least expect. Clara looks at Jamal's photo on the mantel, his smile flickering in the sunlight, and for the first time in 14 years, she feels him proud, not gone. Her battle's not over, but she's not fighting it alone anymore. And neither are you. But the story doesn't end here. As Clara clutches that bandana, a new chapter's beginning, one that'll ripple beyond her porch, beyond this town. What these riders leave behind isn't just a fixed house, it's a legacy that'll change everything. Stay with me, because the final piece of this tale will show you how one night can rewrite a lifetime and how you can be part of it. If Clara's story hit you in the heart, if it reminded you of a time someone's kindness pulled you through, or a moment you gave it and saw it grow, drop it in the comments below. Who's been your unexpected ally? What small act changed your life? Hit that like button. If you believe one spark can start a wildfire, and share this with someone who needs to know they're not fighting alone. Subscribe and ring the bell for more stories of ordinary people igniting extraordinary change, because your story, your voice could be the next one we tell. Let's keep this fire burning together.